Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of If You Can't Handle the Heat. I just want to take some time to tell you about our partners, All Volleyball. All Volleyball is the #1 volleyball retailer and team dealer in the sport. They work closely with both our guest TJ and ourselves Out of System. They have everything that you're looking for as a player, a coach, parent, or anybody in the sport. They have shoes, they have equipment, they have jerseys, you name it, they got it. They support the sport in so many ways, so be sure to check them out. And they've even decided to offer up 20% to all listeners listening to this podcast right now. All you got to do, click the link in the bio for All Volleyball, right below here in the description. Go to the website and use a promo code OOZE20 at checkout to get 20% off. Okay, let's get to the episode now.
Yeah, you can handle the heat. Yeah, you can handle the heat. Yeah. Out of system, you can handle the heat.
Booyah, Shaw, welcome back to the episode of Can't Handle the Heat. It's your boy G Swizz. I'm in Deutschland today on this blessed day here. We got Joe all the way in France. Nothing out of the ordinary, but we do have the TJ Defalco. TJ, thank you so much for hopping on, brother.
Thanks for having me. Yep, it's always a pleasure to join you, boys.
This is the third time you've been on this podcast?
Second, I think.
No. After the Olympics, after Tokyo, then last year. You hopped on last year. We talked about training and stuff, and then now this time. So this is the third time, I think. Third time you've been on this podcast.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. TJ, you have played in Italy, you've played in Poland, and now you play in Japan. What would you say the biggest difference is? Training in Japan, lifestyle in Japan. I'm just gonna throw it to you. Just playing and just being there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of big similarities with Poland and Italy, in the terms of like the foreigners on the court, and usually the foreigners in the team kind of are just there mixed in with the nationality of the team you're playing for, and that kind of creates an environment where you get a lot easier to mix in, or so in some cases there's a lot more niche groups where you get the foreigners and then you get the national local guys or whatever. But here in Japan, there's only 2 foreigners per team. So that kind of allows a lot more exposure into the Japanese culture a little bit, because it's like you have to go hang out with somebody. You have to go try to get outside your comfort zone a little bit. And that's what's been pretty nice about the Japanese league for sure. But then that definitely plays a big role into just the overall culture. Like there's not so many foreigners, so the whole system about Japanese volleyball is kind of ubiquitous amongst everybody. You kind of have to adapt to it as opposed to trying to figure out how to change it and make it better for a foreigner state or any of that kind of stuff. So Japan has been incredible, and I think the biggest difference here is the ability to play and do all the whole sport. Like everybody here can pass and play defense. Everybody here can set. Everybody here can serve. It's pretty ridiculous that I think everybody in the world should experience playing volleyball in Japan at least once in their life, just because of the sheer ability to do all of it and range. Sure, they're not the most physical, but they are faster than a lot of the world, and their ball control is insane. So that would be the big differences between those 3 leagues that I've gotten kind of exposed into.
Do your teammates all speak English, or is that uncommon?
I'd say probably anywhere except for Germany. Not a lot of the national, like how do I say it? The local guys?
Yeah.
I don't know. The guys from the country don't really speak very much English. And that's even more the case for Japan, because they get taught English like 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, and then that's it. And so if they don't choose to actively continue their language expansion, they never use it. So only the national team guys that I have in my team, the Japan national team, they speak a little bit of English and a little bit understand it. But we have 2 different translators that work all the time with the team and the foreigners and stuff.
And as well as and this is for our listeners out there, it's not uncommon for a coach not to speak English, but does he speak English or no?
Yeah. He's actually from Poland, and he speaks incredible English, which is very wonderful for me. but we have a translator that works with him all the time, translates whatever he says, and then a translator for me and Lucarelli to kind of just help us out with daily conversations with the guys.
Got you. And does that mean, like you said, there's two foreigners now because the rule just opened up last year where instead of one, you can have two now. Does that draw you closer to Lucarelli? Is Lucarelli, do you guys communicate in English or Italian maybe, or what's the language there?
Yeah, he speaks incredible English. He speaks great Italian. I don't speak very much Italian, but thankfully, everybody. What's this? Kind of how you kind of know a little bit. We're all spoiled with English. Is that everybody kind of has to learn English if they want to communicate and work in the world internationally anyway. So that's why it's nice a little bit. But we're not forced to ever have to learn another language. So there's goods and bads about it. But yeah, me and Luke really speak in English, and we've gotten a lot closer, and it's been an amazing time hanging out with him, getting to know him for who he is as a person.
Yeah, I bet also because, I mean, everyone they bring over there is going to be world class, and it seems like no one from the same country is on the same team in terms of the two foreigners that are in Japan. So it's can be very opposite people or opposite cultures that you kind of end up getting close with. So that's super cool. And then in terms of, so we were lucky enough to go for college to go to Nitai Dai and to Japan, Tokyo for a while, play a bunch of teams. And we got an inside look in their training. And like you said, everyone's so well-rounded where it's like insane. Is there anything that, I mean, at your level, opponent's level that you're playing at right now, it's world class. So maybe there's not a lot of, in terms of technique, training, but is there something that you're like shocked or is a lot different that training wise that happens in Japan versus the other place you played in, and also America?
Yeah. One of the first biggest things that stuck out to me was the lifting program, because, the westernized side of weightlifting is you go in, you move weight. The only way to get stronger is to move weight, and you want to perform better, you got to be able to move weight. Like take Gage's cake, for example. You got to have cake to be able to move. So
level 10 gyat.
But they don't do that here. They do functional movements and flexibility and range of motion and quick twitch and all that kind of stuff, training of like opening the hips and getting into these weird positions and having a sandbag and like kind of rotating out of it, and like weird functional movements that you would never think would be efficient on the volleyball court, but yet they're faster than anybody in the world. So something they're doing is right. And they do a lot of they get on a trap bar and they put 20s on the side and they just do jumps with it. They hardly do heavy weight here. That's very interesting from that perspective.
Do they want you using the same program, or do they allow a lot of the foreigners to kind of bring in whatever they prefer?
Yeah. What was nice is that my coach called me at the very beginning after I signed up the team. He's like, hey, so just let you know, it's completely different here, and you'll see it more when you get here. But for the westernized people that are kind of already accustomed to moving weight and having that be their foundation, get your own person to help you out. So I have my own program that I do to kind of maintain where I've built up, especially after the Olympics and throughout the long summer and all that kind of stuff, to kind of just hold on to that. But I've had an interesting thought of like, what if I just kind of started doing more of the fast twitch and the functional movement stuff, and like just because what they do really well is they get their body aligned, all working at the same time. Maybe not very strong, they can't force output that much, but all the pieces are working in unison at all times. So I thought that was pretty interesting to maybe play with that idea.
And in terms of injury prevention, is it? Have you seen that there's more injuries there, or is it still kind of similar to what you've seen over in Europe as well?
Yeah, I don't really know, because I think maybe the opposite actually, because the middle blocker number 10, Kento, is one of the only guys that I've seen that moves a lot of weight. He's a very strong man, but he's also like 6'7", or 6'9", maybe even taller. So it's a little unusual for him to kind of adapt to that Japanese style, because he's a bigger human anyway. And he just got knee surgery, and so he had to get pieces of his knee cleaned out from whatever. So I don't know if that would have been something that kind of led to that happening, because I don't hardly ever see these guys get injured. I mean, you see the occasional, like Nishida a couple years ago sprained his ankle pretty bad. I mean, Ishikawa hardly ever gets injured. Maybe some like freak accident stuff, but that's hardly ever preventable anyway. But you hardly ever see these guys with like muscle deterioration or muscle atrophies or any of that kind of stuff, because they just get their bodies in such a right place to be able to handle what they do. So it's interesting.
So So for your training, how do you handle your training in terms of, you said you had to get someone, so do you go through the USA Volleyball program, the guy you've been working with there, or did you have to like find someone outside of there?
I made it very easy for me because he was like, whatever you're familiar with, get somebody that you know or that kind of can adjust to your program. And I was like, that's easy because the guy I worked with all summer does that for me all the time. He makes my own programs and he understands what my body can do, the force output. We did all that testing throughout the summer. So I just used the national team guy and he just makes a program for me.
Actually, so when we played you last year, we were talking about weightlifting. And I remember we played each other like at the end of the year, like a month left of season to go, maybe. And I remember you said something that you probably don't remember, but had a profound impact on me. I was complaining or something about I was like, yeah, like weightlifting is good and everything. I was like, but like sometimes like in this long seasons, man, like, and then I go in and I'm like, I don't push myself as much because I don't want to like hurt or anything or ache. And I'm like, I feel like I'm not strong, whatever. And that's why, I don't like lift a bunch of weight like now when it comes to this. And then I was like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, TJ? And then you're like, and then you said, not rude at all. You were just like, yeah. And and you were like, unless you lift a bunch of weight or lift really hard every single time you go in. And then I was like, and maybe there's tweaks to that, maybe. But I remember you said that to me, and I was like, dang, I got to stop being a little bitch, get in there and lift some weight. So now this year I go in every year. I'm like, you know what? TJ said lift hard every day. Every day you feel good for the most part, feeling healthy, feeling good. And that way, maintain everything. Obviously, don't go too crazy, otherwise you're going to get hurt. But that's something I've been actually doing this year. And I, first of all, I appreciate you calling me out. You didn't even know you called me out. I've actually felt way better than I ever have before, kind of physically. And I feel fast. I feel everything. Because I've done both. In Bulgaria, my first year, there was a lot of quick twitch and everything, and I felt fast there. And then this year, I combined it, a lot of core stabilization and everything, quick twitch and heavy lifting, two things that I, like I said, combined, and I think this is like the best I've ever felt. So first of all, I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I'm glad I could do my part.
Yeah, of course. I want to also go into, Joe, do you have any more questions about the training there or no?
No. I think it's really interesting because I remember Gage mentioned we went to tie-dye University when we were in school, and it's a sports university, and they were, I remember speaking to some of the staff members there, and they were just speaking about how they do so much testing on exactly what you're just talking about, and they don't ever do anything, at least at this time they weren't, where they were pushing. Everything was pulling action for upper body in the shoulder, so behind the shoulder. And they just do a lot of different testing on exactly what you're just speaking about, the quick twitch, reaction, and lighter weight stuff, but how that translates into volleyball-like action. So no, it's interesting. I remember when they were speaking to us about that at that time, and I thought it was really definitely different type of mentality than we had been used to.
Yeah. Yeah, also, as a like I said, you are one of the two big guns, maybe of the foreigners. How do you take care of your shoulder and everything? Because are you getting a lot more sets than usual? Because like you said, everyone's ball control. They bring you in there to score, like period. How many sets are you getting per game? And then how are you taking care of your shoulder? Do you feel it at all, or not really?
Yeah. And one of the lucky parts about being on this team, when we finally get all the pieces back, because Lucarelli is coming back from a shoulder injury, he did something to his trap, not even his shoulder, but his trap that connects down to his rib cage. So that's a very interesting one. He's been out for like a month and a half. But when we get into those three pieces, it's me and him, and then Miyaura. Do you remember watching him at all?
He was in the French league last year with us.
Yeah, Kento.
He was the opposite in Paris last year.
Kento. Yeah, he's insane. He has got one of the craziest shoulders I've ever seen. And so thankfully it's not like how Japan has been in the past for however many years it's been in existence, is that they were going to pay one guy to come in and take 60 swings per match. Now with the expansion of the league into the foreigners realm, that burden is spread out a little bit more. And thankfully, we have me and Lucarelli and Kento on. So it's spread out pretty well. And plus, we also have Sekita setting us. So he distributes the ball anyway. So it's not entirely on both me and Kento. But for the most of the matches, we played 6 matches already. Most of the matches, it's 35, 40 sets per game for both of us.
And how is
it's not like in the 60, 65 range.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, you would hear horror stories of these guys taking just rips in the Korean league. I think they only have one foreigner still. And you hear guys like in practice taking 80 swings, and then in the game taking 80 swings, and they're just ruined. They're just like a resemblance of what they used to look like by the end of the season. That sounds brutal. Obviously, I will never have that because Libero, I ain't taking no swings, but that's brutal. How is playing with your setter? How is like the difference wise from the other setters you play with?
He has very similar attributes that I would put against like towards Josh, and then maybe even actually Joe as well, because Joe and Josh have always had to rely more on their hands than any type of physical elements. They've had to develop smarts and how to figure out how to do different things with their hands and take the ball to a lower point, take the ball to a higher point to change the rhythm and kind of fake out the opponent, the block. That's part of the system of being a smaller setter. And he is by far the smallest setter that I've ever played with, but then also probably that's ever played the game.
How tall is he?
And he's 174, 173.
Like 5'9", 5'10".
No, like 5'4".
Yeah.
5'4".
Yeah.
I'm pulling up his volley box right now.
5'4". That's wow, good for him. Holy, he doesn't look. I mean, maybe the rest of his team isn't the tallest, I guess, in Japan, but he never looked that small. That's impressive.
175 centimeters. Yeah.
Quick mass. Wow. Insane. How's his defense? I bet his defense is pretty insane too. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything was insane. So then what I was getting to is that he has to be able to do different things with his hands to pick up a block, because that's just the nature of the game of being a setter. But then also he has to create some sort of different advantage in his field. And one of the things that I've noticed, he's incredible location and can do things with the ball that I've never seen done before. He'd be sliding, running to 4 on his knees and set back. Like I've just never seen that, like full run. Never seen something like that before. Or set back 1 as he's sliding away to the 10-foot line, as setting back 1 in the middle of the court. Like that's just insane. And the things he's able to do, I think because he's closer to the ground, short, whatever, it's crazy. But then one of the things that really helps him out is that he flies. I've looked at his, we wear these little belt things with the tracker. And he averages like 85, 90 centimeters jump, like max height, which is just crazy. So he's physical, but he's short, and so he can fly around the court, and he's fast as crazy.
But then playing
the first time I've ever experienced something like this is the middle. Like if we were on a gap over system where I'm trying to go fast over the gap, this is the first time I've ever experienced it where he completely disappears from behind the middle, and then also where he's touching it and how he's contacting the ball completely disappears behind the middle's head. I've never had such difficulty running a gap over system, and I'm like trying to see to him run behind the setter and go for my approach. It's pretty crazy.
And the ball disappears, and you just got to be ready for it.
Everything's gone, and I'm like, all right, I got to approach, and I got to be there.
That's awesome. And then in terms of like celebrity wise, how is it like first of all, the support for the club, and then like you still got like a sore thumb there. You and Lucarelli still got like sore thumbs there. How is it like as a celebrity? How is it for you versus also the local guys and like the big name guys? Like how is that in terms of support from the fans, celebrity lifestyles?
Yeah, well, I mean, Sekita, our libero, who's the second libero behind Yamamoto, and Kento are just super superstars here. Everybody, like if fans aren't ever allowed to like line up and take pictures with us and wait for us to do that kind of stuff, they put fences up out back to make sure that no fans ever get around us. And they are like superstars. But then me and Lucarelli get the same kind of attention because we're so different from everybody. All the fans that are here watching volleyball, they just want pictures and all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting of the duality of that, because the Japanese guys are superstars, but then you get when the combination of us two walking with them and like hanging out with them, they lose their minds.
That's insane. And then have
I
you ever
remember
had an
last year-
instance? Oh, you go, Joe.
No, I was just saying Kento, even here in Paris, he would get off match. There's so many Japanese tourists that would come watch him, and he would have like 30 to 40 gifts in his locker after each match. They said, like they'd have people just like bringing him gifts and traveling from Japan just to see him play last year. He came to Chaumont, the national like Japanese news. All his fans, they would like travel. It was crazy last year too, when he was over here in France.
It's wild. Yeah, and the gifts giving thing was a new thing too. In this league, they don't really do that over in Europe, and they do it maybe a little bit whenever if you come with a national team to Asian countries like in Philippines and in Japan, but they do it like crazy after every match here. It's pretty wild.
Is it like off the court as well too? Like you said, during the matches they have fence and stuff, but like okay, like you said, you have a Costco 40 minutes away. Like when you go to Costco, do people recognize you? Do you ever get like hounded in public or anything like that? Or is it?
I've gotten stopped in Costco, in gas stations, and 7-Elevens, and just then the big thing here, the mode of transportation that's big here is the trains. And every time I'm on the train, I'll get people come. Either one, they have to have a lot of confidence for the Japanese people to come up and talk to me and ask for a picture. But what they will do incessantly will just sit over there and turn and stare at me and giggle and side behind their books and just make it super awkward from a distance. Never come up and talk to me, but they'll be there and just make it know that they're there. It's pretty interesting.
So you just feel like everywhere you walk, you just have eyes on you. That's got to be a little like that's got to be like a little like I don't know. I would get like super not paranoid almost. I would be like, ooh, that's. I mean, that's awesome that you have that lifestyle. But for me, I would just get like super, I don't know, heebie-jeebies kind of thing. I don't know. Guys, I hope you guys are enjoying the episode. We'll get right back to it with TJ here. But before we do, I want to give another shout out to our amazing partners, All Volleyball. I want to remind you again, they are the #1 volleyball retailer in the entire sport. They have everything. Doesn't matter if you're a player, doesn't matter if you're a coach, doesn't matter if you're a parent. They have everything you would need to help you succeed. They have always given so much back to the volleyball community and want to give you guys even more. Again, to use that promo code, you get 20% off. All you got to do, select what you want, go to the checkout, but Boost20 to get 20% off of anything that you want from the store, and you're good to go. The first time we talked to you, I remember or had you on the podcast, it was right before Tokyo, and I remember you were in a different role. I think Aaron Russell went down, and then your job was then to come in. And I remember we talked about this a little bit. There was like, people were like, oh, he's too young, he's this, he's too that. This time around, much more experienced player, much more solidified player internationally. Did you feel a different role? What were the differences between this Olympics in terms of how you were feeling and last Olympics?
You get into that match against Poland, and things start getting sideways, getting very competitive, and then we play well and we destroy them one set, and then we lose the next set, and as it gets into a 5th set match, and we ended up losing that match, and it was just heartbreak because it was along the same lines of that feeling of I felt so comfortable and so good in our physicality and the way we were playing volleyball in this moment that we just lost to Poland and we shouldn't have, and that feeling right after that match was finished was just like, what do we do now? Our ultimate goal is now, it was within grasp, and 3 points away within, we had match points, and we lost it, and it's gone. And it was just bizarre. And the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through as an athlete was that day and a half turnaround from the semifinal loss to the bronze medal match. And I don't know how a lot of guys did it, but I did it because my family was there. And that was the only reason that I was successful with that, because my family was there, flew across the world to see me in the Olympics for the first time, because I didn't get to go to Tokyo. And my girlfriend was there, and a lot of the people that I loved were there. And it was like, that was the only reason that I was even able to get out of bed and go find the desire to play, because all of that was stripped 2 days ago.
That's brutal. And can I ask you something personal about the Poland match? I don't know if you want to relive this. I remember they took you out and then they didn't put you back in. how did that for you? How did you come back the next day? And two, in terms of that, like, what was going through your mind in that exact moment of being like, okay, like I want to be out there, but obviously, if coach thinks that's what's best for the team, I gotta, still support. But how does that go through your mind mentally?
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to find the appropriate wording and the way to phrase exactly what went on in my mind without getting into exactly what went on in my mind, because what went on in my mind should never be made public, and people that were in
Fair.
no, it's okay. It's just the nature of the question. But my thought process of it was, I felt like I shouldn't have been pulled, shouldn't have out. I know. I 100% agree to the fact that I was pulled out. I agree with that one without a doubt. But then to leave me out on the floor was when it got shaky, because Tom came into that fourth set and played fucking amazing. I'll cut that out. Freaking amazing. He played amazing. And he passed really well and killed every single ball that Micah was giving him and really turned that set around for us. And it was fantastic. But then there toward the end of the fourth set, when they started getting some steam back, that's when things kind of got shaky a little bit. And the team kind of started, making some misplays. And then it got into the fifth set where all of a sudden Poland stormed back. I mean, this huge recovery there at the end of the fourth set, coming in with all the momentum into the fifth set, even though they lost the fourth. And then that was the moment that it should have been like a flip back. It's like, all right, now I'm sitting on the bench for 25 points. I've been frothing at the teeth. Let me back in the match. Let me, do what I do best and make those clutch plays in those moments of, well, the one dig we needed on Leon, or the one out of system ball that we could have blocked Leon, or whatever it may have been. That will for always remain with me as like a what could have been kind of moment, what could have been feeling, and there's a part of me that's like, whatever, it is what it is, and can't look back. You can't go back and change it. It's all good. But then there's always that little piece that's like, man, what if it were different?
Was it also motivation the next day or the next for the bronze medal match?
No, not at all.
Gotcha.
Actually, after we had lost that match, every desire to continue to play volleyball was stripped. For the guys that we just battled for 3 years to get into that position, for the coaching staff, for it all was just completely ripped out of my body. And I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Tournament's done. Our goal is not attainable anymore. The tournament's done. That was what really my body was feeling and resonating with. But the only way that I had a conversation with one of the coaching staff, one of the psychologists that was there with us that night, after that match night, at like 3 a.m, because nobody could sleep. We were all just downstairs in the foyer in the Olympic Village. It's like talking about random shit. And I talked to her till about 3 a.m. of like, how am I supposed to handle this? And she's like, there's no answers for how you're supposed to handle it. You got to figure out what you need to do to motivate yourself, or to find that thing that you're going to go out and play for. Is it playing for the guys? Is it playing for this? Is it doing it for your country? Is it doing for this? Is it doing it for your family? I was like, that's what it's for. Because my parents didn't fly 1,500 miles, 15,000 miles to come see me lose in the semifinal, to not be able to play for a medal. But then we got to the semifinal round, which means we were able to play for a medal, and then not come away with a part of what we got there for, was to get on the podium. And so then I woke up that next morning and was like, all right, it's for my family, for my mom and dad that flew all the way over here to see me play.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that third place initially, like, it's got to be brutal, at the bronze medal match, and then you realize, okay, there's a bigger picture to this, like you said. Find motivation, draw from it, and that's not an easy thing to do. So I respect you and the boys for that. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Well, we can get off the not so fun parts of the Olympics and kind of get into the more enjoyable. How was it in terms of, technically 2021, but 2020 Tokyo was COVID Olympics. What were some things that you experienced that you were like, wow, this is like, I'm really experiencing the Olympics here. This is super sick, and like your most enjoyable memories there or moments?
From Tokyo?
Yeah. Oh, no. From Paris. My bad. From Paris.
From Paris. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I came into that experience. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I came into the Paris Olympics kind of with the experience that I've never experienced this before. I've never been to an Olympics with a stadium full of fans. Never been to an Olympics where I could roam freely outside the village and go get dinner at a restaurant and go see my family. Um, so that, and never have I been to Olympics that you didn't have to submit a nose test every morning to be able to even walk outside the village. Like you didn't, that just wasn't a thing. So everything that I experienced in Paris was a new experience and was once in a lifetime, first experience in a lifetime for that experience. Playing in the stadium with full fans, being able to go out at the village and having people come in the village. You could get people to come in the village and experience it for their self as well. Going out and seeing all the different houses. Like we went to the Nike house and the USA Volleyball house or the USA house, and they're just like mansions around Paris that these companies take over for the 3 weeks that the Olympics are going on and give you a bunch of free shit, get customized stuff, and it's just super. That was an Olympic experience as opposed to Tokyo was like we got to experience the Olympic Village and that was it.
Yeah, get the full experience, man. How were those muffins that everyone's going crazy about? Those chocolate muffins.
They were really good. They were really, really good.
Yeah, I bet. And then like I said, the opening ceremonies. I was talking to Micah about it and everything, and being on the boats with everyone had to be a pretty surreal moment, you know.
Yeah, and to be honest, I thought I'd talked to a bunch of people about it that night too, and I think because it rained on us as we're sitting on this open face boat, it made it that much better of an experience because one, no one's going anywhere. We're on a boat. And two, you can have an umbrella, but you're gonna if you're trying to maintain dry, you're gonna be miserable the entire boat ride. And it was like 4 hours long. So everyone just kind of embraced it. And we're like, we're getting rained on right now on the opening ceremony of the Olympics, and we're just floating down this canal on a boat with all of the Team USA athletes. And LeBron's right over there. We got Steph Curry over there at the edge of the boat. We're like, this is freaking awesome. And because it was raining, it opened everybody up a little, even that much more. And it was just like, it was an unreal experience.
So lit. And then what'd you like? You get a crap ton of gear. Mike was showing me all the gear he got. What'd you do with all that stuff?
Yeah, we get two giant suitcases. Yep, we get two giant suitcases from Nike, and then the Ralph Lauren and Polo and all this stuff, and it's pretty awesome to be able to get all that stuff. But also, it's also stuff with giant USA letterings and the Olympic logo and all this stuff. It's like you're never going to wear it in public. There's never going to be a time where you can wear that outside of like pajamas in your house where you don't see anybody from the public or anything. It's just stuff you're never going to wear, but it's great to have as a memento. So what I love doing it with it is what I did after the Tokyo Olympics too, is I took it home, and my family's giant. So I just open up the suitcases and say, all right, this is what I got here. Who wants this? Who wants this? Who wants to wear this to bed? Who wants to wear this around the house? And I just give it all to my family and have the opportunity to give them some of the experience too, because then they get a lot of Olympic stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like you said, I mean, and that's what it's all about, man. Like you said, drawing from inspiration. Obviously, they got to that point, so that's really awesome that you're able to get back also in that way. That's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick.
it's super easy for me because, like I said, I'm not going to use any of it. What's the point of me keeping all of it? Like, let's spread the wealth a little bit, you know?
Sick. Want to kind of go to shift gears here a little bit. I want to get your timeline and your knowledge of all this information before it became public. John Speraw, new CEO, USA Volleyball, and then Karch Kiraly now. By now, what it was like 2 days in the public eye, just got announced. What was your timeline? Did you know that this stuff was going to happen before it happened? And just kind of give us your timeline and the knowledge, kind of how everything kind of happened for you as an insider.
Yeah. I knew just as much as everybody else did. I didn't know anything. We had zero information given to us after the Olympics. We knew that just based off of the previous changing of coaches and all that kind of stuff, 16 years ago or whatever it has been, that usually after a long term, there's going to be a coaching change. So we were just kind of sitting and waiting. And then all of a sudden it got announced that he is the CEO. It's like, oh wow, okay, so then that obviously means we have to get a new coach. So then we waited another month for that to come out, and I found out 2 days ago too. So I didn't know any of this stuff was going to happen.
Wow. And what do you think makes a good Team USA volleyball coach? Like in your mind, okay, we have this group of guys. This is the type of leader. This is what we need in terms of for us to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think from everybody's own perspective, I think it's different of what makes a good coach. But I think for the general consensus of a team of very high performing athletes, obviously first and foremost, you need a guy that's knowledgeable about your sport. And if you can get one that has a ton of experience playing the sport, because I know, and both of you, all three of us have experienced overseas coaches that have probably never touched a volleyball a day in their life outside of practices. Like they've never competed in volleyball whatsoever, but they're somehow the head coach of a team somewhere in Hungary or in France or whatever. It's like, how did you get this job? And that is something you definitely want to avoid. And especially for a high caliber as a Team USA head coach, you'd like a guy that knows the sport. If you can get one that has played the sport to understand it and all the intricate ins and outs mentally and physically of the sport, that would be most useful. And then I think, just for my opinion of what I think makes a good coach, is a stern coach, but also a smart and intelligent one, like emotionally intelligent coach.
For sure. I mean, you guys got a lot of high IQ players. You got so much experience. What is have you talked to Karch at all? Have you like worked with him or anything like that, or not really?
No, I've just seen him around the national training gym and just had, one-off conversations here and there. It's like, hey, congrats on the whatever, good luck on your tournament, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nothing of it, any significant value whatsoever.
Has he reached out to you guys yet, or no?
Yeah, I just talked to them yesterday. He's kind of doing his rounds and calling everybody and kind of asking different questions and trying to learn more about us first and foremost, because he doesn't know anything. He's been in the women's game for 16 years, so he hasn't really been exposed to men's volleyball at all. He knows who our names and who we are and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure he's, because of his addiction to volleyball, he's watched some, but he knows relatively nothing about this sport. So yeah, I talked with him yesterday for about an hour and 45 minutes, and just talking and getting to know him.
Awesome. Well, that's all. I know that. I think with John, he obviously did a great job for you. Obviously, you guys have 2 Olympic bronze medals from it. Very successful on the world stage. I think that it was also at times, I think people understood that it was hard balancing UCLA in the national team, and now that Karch is just doing the national team, it's probably great. I think, and then also John stepping into that role and taking more of a taking kind of head of like where USA Volleyball is going, because I've only heard like great things about like his mind and when it comes to business and everything, but also having a coach that's available to like literally just come and watch your games or via online, or just because I knew for the girls he would go and visit you guys. Is he planning on making a trip out to Japan, because there's you and Thomas out there? Did he talk to you at all about that or no?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I brought up to him too in our talk yesterday. It was like, it feels so much nicer to have a coach and head coach that is fully divided, or not divided at all, and fully invested in your success as a team. So my entire experience overseas and playing volleyball as a career, I've never had a head coach come over and visit and talk and see how it's going in practices and see a match and travel around the world and just check in. Just kind of be there. Just not, it doesn't have to do anything crazy. It doesn't have to offer me practice plan to see this or see that, or you offer me advice or any of that kind of stuff. It's more just checking in, letting hey, I'm here. I want to see how you're doing. Checking in, blah blah blah. Easy stuff. But it's so small. But yet, I told Karch this because he's planning to come out in February and do January, February, and do a world tour of all of Europe first, and then he's going to keep heading east to Japan, and then going to make it home. And it's like, then that feels incredible to know that you're going to go out and see everybody. and take the time and invest not just on the court stuff, but off the court and into the relationships that we're going to spend the next 4 years building.
Yeah, it's exciting times, man. And he signed for 4 years, and then just for the next quad, yeah.
I don't know anything about his contract or any of that kind of stuff, but I would imagine what the press release said was till LA 28. But I don't know.
And then in terms of John taking over that role, as I said, like taking head of USA Volleyball, what do you think, just from working with him and knowing him, where do you think he's going to steer the direction and really help USA Volleyball?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that he's going to help with is just his business intelligence. He's a very, very smart guy. He's going to have and offer the biggest piece that he's going to be able to offer is the business intelligence that he has. One, because he's very, very smart, and he does a ton of reading and investing in his mental capacity for all things business and all that stuff that it means. So I already kind of felt that a little bit from his time at USA Volleyball, but also his all the business ventures he does with Gold Medal Square and the various other things, also juggling UCLA. So the fact that he's now kind of confined into that space of being the head of USA Volleyball is going to be good for us and for him as well, where he can just focus all of his power on, which, like what you said, which direction we're going to go as an entire organization, and the investments here on out are going to have his full attention.
For sure. Is there anything that you were like, okay, or I guess no, I'm not going to go down that route. I won't go down that route at all. I was gonna talk about in terms of like USA Volleyball, in terms of organization. You were like, okay, I wish we maybe as a player, you're like, I wish we provided for this a little more. But USA Volleyball as a whole, you hear about other national teams, it's pretty, like, you guys are pretty well off in terms of like resources, in terms of like facility wise. Like you we talked to like even the Germany lost in the quarterfinals of Olympics, and they're like, yeah, we have like nothing. No one gets paid. No one gets anything. So USA Volleyball has always been in a good spot, I think, and I think that John is only going to help for sure. I think sometimes they need a little more guidance in terms of, just because we work with them in a different capacity that you do, because we maybe like help like go to their events and everything, like girls and boys nationals, and help like do some media stuff here and there. So it's just something that we realized, okay, like I think John's gonna be a little better in this aspect, or in terms of like maybe like pushing media or other stuff here. So I'm excited to see where it goes off. I'm also super psyched that you guys now also have John did a great job, but I think Karch also going to do a great job as well. I think he's going to definitely get to see you overseas, which is something that as a player just you feel so important, because you have the support of that. So that's super exciting stuff. One thing we love to talk about on this podcast is shoes. We love talking about shoes and everything. You are is in Japan, is it big to wear basketball shoes at all, or is that not a thing? Is it mainly ruled by Asics and Mizuno?
Not really a big thing to wear basketball shoes, compared to what I'm used to from like the club volleyball and youth volleyball stuff. Well, that was the thing when I was playing club, was get the brightest colored basketball shoes you could, and that was the coolest thing. But no, over here it's all ruled by Mizuno volleyball shoes and court wear.
Got you. And then what do you wear personally?
I wear Nikes. I'm a Nike athlete, sponsored, whatever. And I wear the hyper sets, the hyper attacks, hyper speeds, or whatever the heck they're called. Hyper aces, I think. Hyper ace 3s, and they're just right. They're the perfect volleyball shoe, I think.
Dude, how was it like in the Olympics? I know you guys got, I think it was like the hyper aces, hyper sets were in there. There was a couple that were that orange colorway with the polka dots. And that's got to be pretty sick for a volleyball player to be like, yo, I got some like just dropped exclusive stuff, like Nike stuff. Because usually that stuff is like saved for basketball players. So it's like sick that you guys got some love. How was it when you first like got those shoes, and you're like, and when you heard, okay, like they're making these shoes for the Olympics and we get to try them out?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, regardless of my opinion on the shoes. Of like what you said, like this is a drop for the volleyball subsection of Nike. It's very small and very underdeveloped, but it is there. And the fact that they were producing that shoe for us to showcase at the Olympics, and we were told, I was told by somebody, it might have been Anderson, very early on that shoe was going to be an Olympic shoe, SE special edition, like in the Olympics only, and that was where the only place that those shoes were going to be available. And then, sure enough, 3 weeks after the Olympics, I see on their page, their email, they sent out an email say, "Oh, get your shoes now," and it's all the bright orange shoes. So it kind of took away a little bit of that sweetness of like an Olympic edition shoe. Because before it was like we were the only ones that were going to get them and have them, and so then that was going to be like a memento. But then after they started mass producing, it was like, okay, well then that lost that sweetness. So
That would have been sick. And do you still wear them, or do you like keep them as? Well, I'm sure if, or do you keep them as a memento, or do you still wear them, or what are your thoughts?
no, I'm keeping those. One, I don't wear them because I think their decision on the color scheme for the Olympic shoe has, if even for the last 2 Olympics, has been a little bit interesting. But I get it from a business perspective of I want to create the most flashy, most absurd looking shoe to catch the attention and be like, what is that guy wearing on his feet? What is that? What is that logo? And then see the big old swoosh on the side. So I get it from that side. But then personally, not a fan of the shoe, not a fan of the color scheme by any
I
means.
will say, bro,
So-
when I saw those, I was like, interesting. I mean, like you said, they were flashy. People were talking about them. It is very, very, very hard to miss those on a court. So if that was the goal, successful. Would I wear that color scheme? Probably not. But it looked.
Yeah.
But you got people talking, and that's important in that business.
100% did. So those are
last
staying in a box with my medal at home.
Good man. Good man. Hey, it'll outshine that medal, I think. Also.
Yeah.
Last question here, TJ. LA, no one ever accused me for having a huge brain or anything like that, but I just put these two and two things together here. LA is, obviously, USA gets in automatically. No matter how you do world ranking, no matter how you do VNL, that means you're guaranteed at Olympics the next 4 years, which means your VNL push, world championships, maybe even world championships, world ranking push isn't as important. Obviously, you want to gain momentum, you want to stay in shape and stuff and feel good going into the Olympics. What are you going to be doing? Are you going to take any time off? If you don't want to answer this question, feel free not to answer this question. But for you, is that something that's going through your head where you're like, now you have a new head coach, but also you're like, okay, the last 8 summers of my life, I've been going in, day out in the national team gym. I know I know you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you're also a made man. Everyone knows who you are. You're very well respected. You've earned some time off. Is this something that you want to take a few summers off, not take it, go full throttle, work with your new coach, or what are you thinking?
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad topic to talk about because it's in public understanding and people are smart. They're going to figure out things on their own. And yeah, so I think with everybody's mindset of they understand how much we play throughout the summer, a little bit. I think they understand only the timeline. They don't understand really how much work has gone into it. And for me, I think I've talked to you, actually I did talk to you about this in Germany, was that for the last 11 years of my life, I've never had a summer. I've been doing the youth national stuff. I've been doing the senior teams tours and the thises and the Norsekas and the traveling around doing all this stuff for the last 10, 11 years. So for me now the first thing for me was that I've done 2 Olympics. I feel like I've earned my stripes. I've put in the work, I've earned my spot on the floor and whatever, all that kind of stuff. I paid my dues. Then the second is the USA thing, was what you mentioned, is that we don't have to worry so harshly about that, the getting in, the birth and all that kind of stuff. So I had that conversation with Karch yesterday too, and I was like, hey, and he actually brought it up, which is nice. He's like, you've been through this, we got the USA thing, what are you thinking about that in terms of that? And I was like, I would love to take VNL off next summer and actually be able to live my life full and free for 1 summer. So 1, to remember how that feels, because I honestly don't. And then 2, just to be able to relax and rest and recover from all the continuous level that I've been playing for the past 10 years. And he was like, absolutely, I 100% agree with that. But it's a rough draft right now because we're still trying to figure out scheduling things and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know if it would be the full summer that I would take off or just the VNL and then try to use the excuse to not have to report to Japan to play, train the world World Championships. That's later part in the summer, in like August, September. So we're nothing is set in stone yet, but that's kind of the idea of understanding from coach's side and from my side that a break would be much appreciated and well earned.
For sure, 100%. I mean, like you said, people don't realize you go straight from, okay, you play 7 to 9 months, you're not at home, you then go back, maybe you have maybe they give like a week, maybe a little longer, maybe, if that.
Week,
you go,
10
you
days,
train.
yeah.
Yeah, you go, you play, you go, you train, and then you, not only do you not get time off, but you go back outside of the country, unless you're so lucky that Anaheim's a stop, back outside the country, away from home, away from everything for a significant amount of time. And that's like 4 to 5 times, if not more, a summer. So it's not just the time off. I think also for you, is it also like a being away from home type thing? That's got to be pretty brutal on the mentals, man.
Yeah, 100%. Especially coming from my family base, we're 9, now 10, 12 strong, however many siblings and not step siblings, grandkids that I've got in my family now. We're continually growing, and I started to see it from a perspective of my nieces and nephews. They're 2 and 3, let's say, for example. If I go overseas and play for 9 months and then come back and then I'm home for a week or 10 days, and then I go overseas 5, 6 times that summer, and then I come back and I don't have any more time, and then maybe at the end of summer I have a week to come back and visit them and all that stuff, and then go back overseas for 9 months. That's a whole year of their life that I've missed. So from 2 to 3, I have no idea who they are, and now I get to see them at 4. And so that perspective for me has now started to weigh more heavily on me, that I don't get to be in my nieces and nephews' life, and my mom and my dad and all my siblings as much as I would like to. And I've started to see that more often, that now I need to start making changes to be able to experience some of that stuff, because I haven't. And I know continually going forward, it's going to be the same thing for however many more years my body can keep doing this.
What does time off look like for TJ Defalco in terms of the perfect ideal? You take VNL off, was that 4 or 5 weeks, if not more? What does the perfect time off look like for you in those weeks?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know. I think it would be sitting up in Idaho with my family up on the farm that we have, and building my house that I bought 2 different properties up there, and just on my land, and just developing what it looks like to even be TJ. I have no idea what that even looks like outside of volleyball. And I can imagine you guys can attest to the same thing too. You're either Out of System Boyz or you're players overseas. That's your duality that you guys are living in right now. So I bet you guys kind of understand the same thing of what does Gage do in his free time? It's an interesting perspective to look at.
Free time is also, we do not obviously live the same life as you, but it is a thing of in the summer that for Out of System for us is like when we it's like full throttle. Like we also had like a week at home. That's it. We had no off time. We were on the month for 2.5, 3 months straight. Like I said, very different from what you were doing. But that is a good point of like, okay, what happens when that kind of shuts off and stuff? And I think that's when you come back to like family and loved ones. I think that's when you kind of hone in, you kind of realize that. And obviously as you get older, you kind of realize these things. I think that's really, really important. If that's the basis of a lot of who you are comes from and what you're about, I think that's always, you're always in a good spot if that's the case. And it obviously you have an amazing family. I was fortunate to meet a lot of them, and definitely something that keeps you true to who you are. And I think that's really, really important, especially as you're flip-flopping these lives back and forth.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Last question. This is actually the last question here. Everyone always suspects this. You played a AVP in 2019, was it? I want to say a summer or with Nick Lucena.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks, when is TJ going to the beach? I think I've asked you this the last 2 podcasts too, so I got to make it traditional here. Is TJ ever still thinking about going to the beach?
I mean, from my background, there's no possible reality where I don't look into something along the lines. I don't know when or where it's going to happen, but beach is always going to hold a very close place to my heart because that was the sport that I started with. And I attribute 50, 60, almost 70% of what I was doing as a youth to beach.
Sure.
And whenever I get the chance to talk to young kids about it, I tell them 100%, if you're playing indoor, go play beach. If you're playing beach, go play indoor. Because the two complement each other so well and so perfectly. The expansion is tremendous. And for me, that's what beach was for me. And I'll always hold beach very dearly to me because of that opportunity that it created and allowed me to kind of expand. And so, yeah, without a doubt, I will be coming back to the beach, but I just don't know in what capacity.
Well, only time will tell, my friend. Only 6-man. Are you gonna play? Oh yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask you. Wait, if you're in World Championships, you can't play 6-man this year. Then, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Unless
you guys are gonna win
like,
again. Oh no.
Hey, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
You could take World Championships off for 6-man. That's a debate you're gonna probably have in your head here pretty soon. Here.
I mean, that's a pretty good priorities list right there.
Karch will be stoked. Well, TJ, that wraps up our podcast. We want to thank you again for being on the pod for the 3 years in a row, not 3 years in a row, but third time. Thank you so much for your time. Wish you the best in Japan. And to the people out there, just remember, if you can't handle the heat, goddamn kitchen, this has been another episode presented by Out of System.